Welcome, friends, to the House of Good Spirit podcast. I'm your host and new BFF, Whitney Kranz of Astro Arcana. Today, we're going to talk about the new moon in Cancer on June 25th. And as your mystic sis, your astro obsessed bestie, even your style maven, I'm here to translate the otherworldly wisdom of the cosmos into down to earth insights meant to help us connect with the astrology and weave spiritual wisdom and maybe a little bit of style into your life. Now, the House of Good Spirit, this place is where we gather with our friends to talk about our hopes, our dreams, and our greatest wishes for the future, specifically as they relate to our lunation cycle, or our new moons and our full moons. By living into the astrology, we create opportunities, we open doors, we connect in an otherwise disconnected world. Now, this is not the place where we dissect current affairs or predict world politics. This is a deeply personal and deeply spiritual place. I invite you to grow closer to yourself, closer to God or gods, the spirit or the universe, whatever you believe, closer to the earth beneath our feet, and to therefore feel more deeply connected to your personal source of power and wisdom. And you're like, Whitney, you keep saying we. Yes, I keep saying we because it is my hope to create a community space here. And I have many visions of how that may evolve or deepen in the future. But for now, what that means is that I want your input on this podcast. I want to do something that I'm not seeing anywhere else and include your voices and faces, if you'll let me, on my show. So after this episode has wrapped and you've gone away with ways to reflect and integrate this lunation into your life, I want to hear about it. I want you to share your story with me, just like we're on FaceTime, in a minute or less video that I'll include in the next episodes, your hot takes, your stories, your comments, your questions, and you can see yourself reflected on this screen because your story is important too. Now, before we get into it, if you have heard my voice ever, I would be remiss not to mention I got a little cold. Can you hear? Maybe it's a little husky, maybe it's a little froggy, but the gods do not wait for something like a silly cold to subside. So here we are rolling with it. Today, we are discussing the new moon in Cancer on June 25th. Now, this new moon comes in the wee hours of the morning, that's Central Time, US, where I am, and it actually dawn breaks with this new moon. The new moon is right on the ascendant, which means it is ripe with symbolism, which we're going to talk about shortly. But we also have to mention what else is happening amid this new moon. Well, this is a new moon and a Jupiter cazimi combined. This new moon is happening less than a degree from the previous day's Jupiter cazimi. So while the new moon is not technically cazimi, I think it's going to act like one. It's going to feel incredibly optimistic. It can't ever be all rainbows and sunshine, can it? At 4 degrees, this new moon is square to both Saturn and Neptune, who are loosely conjoined in Aries, and it is sextile to Mars in Virgo. So if you know a little something about astrology, you know that that means that we do have both malefics in the mix of this new moon. Now, that said, since Jupiter entered Cancer, I don't know about you, but it may have felt a little harsher than expected. We have lots of astrologers waxing poetic about the glory of an exalted Jupiter in Cancer. And I know it hasn't all been glory for me specifically. This is happening because Jupiter is square to Saturn and Neptune as soon as it entered Cancer. That square is playing into it. A square speaks of tension and how our lessons are taking root. So let's talk about this new moon. I'm going to take you back to Astro 1-on-1, the course here with Whitney Kranz, and talk about what exactly is a new moon anyway. Now, a new moon is when the moon and the sun come together in the sky. When you're looking at a natal chart or any chart of the moment, the moon and sun are right next to each other in the same degree. Symbolically, we can think of the moon cycle like the cycle of plants in nature, right? There's a seeding, a growing, a harvesting, and a decomposing. And then, of course, a reseeding. And so the new moon is like the planting of seeds. It's about a new cycle being birthed, a new story taking root in our lives. I would imagine that some of you work with manifestations. And those of you who work with manifestation know that new moons are the greatest time in the lunation cycle that we have to manifest, because it's like you can pour your intention into this new seed, just like pouring fertilized water on a new seed. It is just like that. Now, why? If you want to understand the phases of the moon better, I highly, highly recommend reading anything from Dane Rudyard. I just read The Lunation Cycle. I can show you. So this is Rudyard's The Lunation Cycle. And in that, he tells us the moment of the solar lunar's will to expand is stronger than ever at the new moon. But the resistance of the outer world against that expansion increases even more sharply, and the moon finds itself checked in this phase. This begins a process of transformation where new meets the old in a struggle of wills. And out of this struggle, emotions, complexes, and physiological deviations develop. Essentially, this is when individuation begins. That's a slightly paraphrased quote from the lunation cycle. And so, really, a new moon is all about individuation. Now, why we talk about some of the things that are happening around the new moon is because the environment that this new moon takes place in, yes, the sign and any close aspects, but also transits, they follow and tone the growth of this seed and contribute to bringing it to fruit. So while we are not in this show going to dive deep into the transits that follow this lunation, I may mention in this or following episodes their potence and effect on the lunation. If we're using the analogy of the plant metaphor, these transits affect how we tend and care for those seeds, making sure it has the perfect amount of light, keeping our pests away, watering it diligently, etc. Now, another thing we should note about the moon cycle generally, and we can think about the moon cycle in multiple ways. From new moon to new moon, from new moon in a particular sign until the full moon in that same sign 6 months later. Or if you've got real long-term visions, I'm sure you do, just like me, we can consider from a new moon in a sign until the next new moon in that sign a year later. Now, there are even folks out there who work with longer moon cycles, but the month-long and 6-month moon cycles are what I most commonly work with. So let's dig into what this new moon in Cancer means. Well, we talked about what a new moon is. It's a seeding moment, right? It's a moment of individuation. We have to talk about Cancer because the new moon is at 4 degrees of Cancer. And listen, we love a new moon in Cancer because Cancer is the sign of the moon. And when I think about the moon here, I mean, I think about the moon anywhere. The moon is a mirror. The moon is reflective. The moon is reflection in how it acts and translates the light of all the other planets in the sky so that we can interpret it back here on Earth. Now, Cancer is also Jupiter's exaltation. And don't we love that? That's a real treat since Jupiter and the moon are combined here with this new moon in Cancer. Now, Cancer is also a cardinal sign. Our cardinal signs are Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, and Libra. Of the cardinal signs, which cardinal really means initiating, so there's also that commonality. Cancer is a water sign. Water signs are deeply intuitive, sensitive, permeable, flowing, and feeling. Something I like to think of is actually what my teacher Adam Ellenboss says is that Cancer is the gateway into mankind, whereas its polar opposite, Capricorn, is the gateway to the gods or the gateway to heaven. And so we can think of Cancer here. It's here where the gods descend into mortal bodies and where liminal things become concrete. So, in that way, Cancer is a birthplace. This is where we get a lot of our symbolism from Cancer being associated with birth and the womb and mothers and motherhood. And it is creation. In fact, I love this. The ascendant of the Thema Mundi. The Thema Mundi is the divine birth chart of the cosmos. This divine birth chart gives us our dignity schemes. It gives us our aspect rationale. It is part of what astrology is founded upon. And the Thema Mundi tells us why planets do better or worse in certain signs. And so Cancer is the ascendant of the Thema Mundi. Cancer is the rising sign of the Thema Mundi. But if you remember that this precise new moon, if you're in the US like I am, is right on the ascendant, just like in the Thema Mundi. Also, this new moon is happening at the very, well, it always does, at the very beginning of Cancer season, where the summer solstice takes place. And this is an important point in our celestial year. For the Egyptians, this signified the start of their year. This is an incredibly powerful new moon, one with intense creative and individuating potential. It's an extremely fertile time to bring new works forth. Now, beyond these defining features that we're talking about for this specific full moon, we can also associate several different descriptions with Cancer season. Cancer, the sign, because of its relation to the moon and to Jupiter, to its cardinality and its wateriness, we associate Cancer with birth, with humanity, with nurturance and care, with motherhood and home, domestic matters even. We associate Cancer with femininity and fertility, extreme sensitivity, intuition, with deep feeling, with the ebbs and the flows of the tides, just like the ebbs and the flows of our emotion. These are things the moon brings to us, and therefore Cancer represents. So let's talk a little bit about the moon. The moon is one of our great lights. It is neither benefic or malefic, but just like the sun can fill you with vitality, but it also causes intense burns, the moon holds that duality as well. It is both illuminating and mysterious. It is both soft and strong simultaneously. And the moon makes you feel things. In this day and age, though, we don't always want to feel things, do we? Now, when I think of the moon and all of the things it makes me feel, and I'm therefore thinking about Cancer, right? I conjure the goddess Artemis. Artemis is a deity who has her own spot in my personal pantheon. To connect with Artemis, the huntress version goddess, is to know protection. It's the power of individuation and yet also connectedness. Now, the lunar qualities are infused with Artemis's associations. Born of Zeus and Leto, Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo, our solar deity. In fact, born first, Artemis midwifed her brother's birth, which is part of what gains her the association with childbirth. Now, something I love about Artemis and also Diana in Roman mythology, Artemis is fiercely independent. Yes, she's a virgin goddess, but only in her choice to remain unmarried. And to me, she represents this strong, independent young woman and is also associated with the protection of young women. There's also something here about her designation as goddess of the hunt. It's her independence that ties her to the land and to the animals rather than to domestication and shows us that the world is our home. I already said it, but I'm going to say it again. Artemis is a protector, and this fierce power of protection is potent in this new moon. Both with Saturn and Neptune in a square, Saturn and Neptune together contain this sort of guardian energy, and with the sextile to warrior Mars. Now, it is within this new moon cycle, from new moon to new moon, here I'm talking, that both Saturn and Neptune turn back toward Pisces and begin their long retrogrades. We're only given a taste here in spring, early summer of what Saturn and Neptune conjoined in Aries bring forth. And much of that time has had Jupiter as its midwife, first in the squares from Gemini while both were in Pisces, and now in a square from Cancer to Aries. So, what I'm seeing is that part of this new moon is helping to not only create, but midwife the change that we are seeing on a large scale in our lives. It's not just about this particular moment, it is about a greater cycle of change happening in our lives that begins here in 2025 and continues and really gets put into place in 2026. So, we've talked about a new moon, what that means. We've talked about Cancer. Let's just spend a little bit more time on Jupiter, since Jupiter is so importantly configured to this new moon. Jupiter lends an air of philosophical gusto. Jupiter is our greater benefic, and our greater benefic, in conjunction with this lunation, makes for a big, buoyant, belief driven new moon that is full of faith and hope and dreams. Now, Jupiter or Zeus represents big picture thinking, and we can see from some of Jupiter's significations in the joy scheme because Jupiter finds its joy in the 11th house, the area of friends and supporters, but also the area of hopes, dreams, and wishes. So, hopefully, we have a good idea of the most important factors contributing to the feeling of this new moon. And now I'm going to put it all together for you. I'm going to try to paint the archetypal picture. I am seeing an air of nostalgia and reflection to this new moon. It's a way in which we look backward in order to move forward. And because we're moving forward in some goal in our lives, this is feeling like how we must look forward in order to bring forth our newness in the greatest potential. This is a major rebirth moment. I mean, we talked about it happening at dawn. This is quite literally looking at a new dawn in the Cancer part of our charts. With that new dawn, we are full of big ideas right now, big beliefs. We have faith in our future, and it is so fertile. And I'm seeing in Jupiter's buoyant shape, closer to the clouds than the ground, and in the moon's reflective nature that casts sparkles from the sun's light, doesn't it kind of look like a big old disco ball? I am conjuring that image of a giant mirror ball to represent this new moon in Cancer. And I know you know that a disco ball means dance party, right? A disco ball reflects the magic of the dance floor and amplifies it, doesn't it? Just like this new moon is reflecting the magic of your own creativity and amplifying it. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is also the time of the summer solstice. It is ripe for the celebration of light because the summer solstice means we're now turning toward the dark half of the year. We must remember the light as we get closer to the dark. So, in all, to me, this new moon feels incredibly benefic. And it feels like a great time to consciously work on what you're bringing forward. What is your ideal vision for the future? Can you hone in on what you're creating? And can you think about what you want that to look like a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now? Protect that thing, protect that vision and what is born from it. Like Artemis, live into and claim your wildness as part of what connects you to the world around you, to your people, and infuse your work with that connected authenticity. If you know which house Cancer is in your birth chart, you can take these themes and apply them topically. For me, as a Leo rising, Cancer is my 12th house. So I'm working on just the very easy task of uncovering subconscious beliefs. But in reality, I expect this time to be incredibly fertile in my dream world. Artemis and we are going on some dream world adventures throughout this new moon cycle. That's just what I have in store. We'll see what else is unveiled. But if you're a Cancer rising, for instance, this one's about you. What are you changing? What new birth are you giving to in yourself, your appearance, your body, your mind? And if you have cardinal signs on the angles like Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, or Libra rising, this one's going to hit even stronger for you. And if you don't know anything about what the heck I just said, then you can come book a reading with me and we will demystify it. This is the portion in the episode where we wrap things up now that we've talked about what it all means. And I want to give you the opportunity to reflect and to integrate this new moon into your life. So I have a couple of reflection questions and I have a couple of suggestions to get you really living into it. So, in terms of reflections, ask yourself during this time over this new moon, what new beliefs are taking root right now? And who and what do you have faith in? You could also ask yourselves, weaving in some themes of the square to Saturn, Neptune, and the themes of Artemis, what are the things you hold dearly that you protect others from? Is there a way to strengthen those protections, or are you protecting these things without good reason? Do you need to loosen your walls, loosen the binds, break down your walls a little bit? Now, in how to integrate or live into this moment, I will be waking up early and getting outside to see the sunrise. I encourage you to do the same thing. Wouldn't that all be great if all of us little Astro besties woke up early on June 25th to get outside and bring a warm beverage and journal or free write about our hopes and our dreams for the future? If multiple people do that, like think of all the goodness we create in the world when we do that, when we think carefully and nurture the things that we want to grow on purpose. You know, beyond these reflections, beyond journaling your hopes and dreams for the future, you might just want to make a list of all the things you care most about in this world. You know, turn it into like a little gratitude list, because getting clear about these things, it serves us when we can feel into what we already have and already love in a way that we can beckon more of that abundance in. I mentioned style at the beginning of this show. And so part of what we'll be incorporating to each episode are things to wear to feel into this lunation. Why? Well, because my background is in fashion, guys, and I am taking the crunchy old world of astrology along for my fashion ride. And so, what I want you to wear throughout this new moon, the day of, but yes, also the entire time that the sun moves through Cancer, I want you to wear white. I want you to wear silver and cream, or that gorgeous buttery pale yellow that's so trendy right now. I want you to wear layers and volume and drapey things. I want you to wear a skirt you can twirl in. And by all means, with Jupiter in the mix, make it sparkle, make your hair big, do it up. This one is loud, and you are allowed to be loud with your style. One more thing that I want you to add to your list of reflections and integrations is simply to connect with me on Instagram. And like I mentioned at the beginning, DM me a short minute or less video telling me how you're doing with this lunation. I mean, just like FaceTime, right? You can also post using the hashtag witnessed, but that's witnessed with a WHIT, just like my name, Whitney. If you're camera shy, I'll totally take a voice message as well. And I will feature a couple of these videos or audio clips in every episode. So I can't wait to hear from you. So now what? Well, until we meet again, whatever you're working on over the coming days, you have major opportunities to get loud, to use your voice. We, in fact, from June 26th to the 29th, Mercury enters Leo, then trines Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and will then oppose Pluto in Aquarius. This is presenting you the opportunity to get loud. Then we are given the chance to rewrite the narrative on your relationships, on your sense of peace, or even your personal style from July 4th to the 7th, when Venus conjoins Uranus, moves into Gemini, bringing Uranus along for the ride, and trines Pluto. So that's what to expect in the sky in this lunation period. Now, you'll see me every other Wednesday breaking down the upcoming lunation. So the next time will be for the full moon in Capricorn on July 10th. And to hear how the transits are breaking down between now and then, you guessed it, check out my Astro of the Week series each Monday on Instagram, as well as whatever else I'm getting up to with the gods. You can find me on Instagram at astro.arcana.astrology. Until we meet again, friends, in the House of Good Spirit, I'll see you next time.